Welcome back. You join us in Peterborough Cathedral Square, where we are at the vigil for Melanie Shaw, who is a survivor of child abuse at the Beechwood Children's Home. She's a whistleblower, and in an attempt to shut her up, she's been put into Peterborough prison on completely fictitious, trumped-up charges. This is what they seem to, in their desperation, they seem to want to do to whistleblowers at the moment, is trying to find an excuse to incarcerate them. We must let Cameron and May and those behind them know that this is completely unacceptable. This has to stop. We have to have those who think their positions of power and money and influence allow them to abuse children. They must pay for their crimes, and those who have covered it up must now pay for their crimes, because that is a serious crime too. Covering up such things needs to be life imprisonment. Deliberately destroying documents, deliberately using and abusing the Official Secrets Act. These need to be life imprisonment sentences. These people have no part in our civil society. They must be locked away. You can cover up for such horrendous crimes. You are not fit to be called a human being.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello everyone, thank you for coming for vigil for Melanie Shaw. I have a statement here from Brian Gerrish that I'd like to read out for you. We must never forget Melanie Shaw by Brian Gerrish. For those of you who may not know Melanie Shaw, she is a very brave lady, raped and abused from the age of 3 to 4 years old by members of her family. She was passed to the care of a foster family who all abused her. She was then taken into the care of Beechwood's Children's Home, Nottingham, where she was abused until she was finally allowed to leave. Denied any help to find a job, she then succumbed to a life of drugs on the streets. Most of us cannot even imagine what she has suffered. Many simply cannot bear to hear what she has experienced. Never mind worry that she is presently making financial profit for the directors and shareholders of Sodexo private prison. Yet one kind man took Melanie under his wing, looked after her, gave her a lovely home and a father the child she loved. Strengthened by a stable family home and the passage of time, Melanie then found courage to speak out about her abuse and those of many other children at Beechwood Children's Home, Nottingham. The local police took her evidence seriously and started Operation Daybreak. They soon admitted that up to 150 children were likely to have suffered. Many other children's homes were implicated. Far from being protected, nurtured and praised, Melanie Shaw was quickly returned to prison. It would seem then that Nottingham police became nervous when she discovered that they had lied over the interview of witnesses. Fitted up with charges of arson and criminal damage, Melanie was sentenced to 3 years community service and branded mentally ill. Her real sentence was to start when she returned home. Tired, distraught and still suffering post-traumatic stress from her abusive history, she was denied any help from Nottingham Social Services or Mental Health Services. Credit where it is due though, Nottingham Social Services had previously been remarkably efficient in taking her son into care after she was charged with the arson offence. Alone, without access to money, except for that provided by the generosity of the UK column readers and other members of the public, Melanie was subjected to repeated harassment by the police, intimidating telephone calls, followed by police cars in public, Her house broken into by heavyweight police in black, arrested for visiting the bank. Melanie was brutalised by the very public services that claim they are there to protect. The stress took its toll and she became volatile. But who wouldn't? Her unpredictable behaviour allowed Nottingham Police and the Crown Prosecution Service to cook up more charges. Unlawful imprisonment of a paramedic, 2 offences under the Communications Act. Further charges of breaching her probation service conditions were also concocted. However, those were later dropped. Returned to HMP Peterborough after a secret court hearing, Melanie has repeatedly been denied her desired legal representation, that of her trusted and capable lay legal advisor. Instead, she has been bullied by the judge into using VHS Fletcher's law firm, who happen to be the very people she sacked for their poor performance and unqualified staff in her first trial. Now incarcerated in the same Sodexo prison that has previously denied her medical treatment, pushed her into solitary confinement, bullied her and denied her basic human rights, Melanie is now being blocked from receiving telephone calls or letters from those who can help her. She is due to appear in court for a mention request on the 8th of May 2015. The next hearing will then be the 18th of May for case management hearing. In the meantime, and as Sodexo's profits rise, we must never forget Melanie Shaw or her vicious treatment at the hands of the British state. Why? Because when there is no justice or law, any of us could be next. Thank you. Let's have.
Woo.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
Free Melanie Shaw!
Free Melanie Shaw!
free Melanie Shaw!
Melanie Shaw!
Free 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 Melanie Shaw!
Justice for survivors!
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 Justice for whistleblowers!
Justice for whistleblowers!
Good one.
Nottingham Police, they're as corrupt as any police force in this country.
Hey, hey!
Chris Aird, the Chief Constable, when I confronted him, all he could do was run away. That man is a paedophile protector. Just as John Collins, Ian Currier, Anthony May and Alan Rhodes of both councils. They're still hiding paedophiles, and within the next few weeks I will be outing a minimum of 150 paedophiles that Nottingham City Council are currently hiding. I've put this out on social media today and we're just waiting for some paperwork to come through, and we will be outing it before the elections. People should vote to get rid of that corrupt Labour council that runs both the city and the county council, and we should start petitioning for the removal of Chris Aird. He is not fit for office. All he is a paedophile protector. Thank you for listening.
Good luck, Mickey.
Well done, Mickey.
Are you going to go next?
Someone wants to go now, just get me back.
Do you want to borrow a louder megaphone? This one's a lot better.
Oh, yes.
Very loud.
What the request?
Try it out first.
It's on, just press the trigger.
You get it first.
It takes a moment to engage.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.
We've come from Nottingham today, down to Peterborough. In Nottingham, we have mass child cover-up in child abuse, of rape, murder, and physical abuse. And it's got to stop. And if we don't stop it, it's going to carry on. So get off your fences and come and support us. Because if you don't, there's going to be no justice. It's like a cancer. It creeps into everything and it's in every system. Social services needs an overhaul in every aspect because some children are being took into care instead of being supported and staying with their families, are being taken out of their homes, and it's wrong. They should be worked with. The money we put into these services and the cost it costs to put a child into care costs a detrimental amount of money. You need to wake up. The people of Peterborough, we're here today for Melanie Shaw, a whistleblower who tried to expose rape and murder and was left in a prison trying to just blow the whistle. She had a life, an horrible life of being in a children's home, abused, a foster home, abused, and now she's still being abused because instead of giving her the help, they're locking her up because they want to cover it up. People need to come here and listen to what we've got to say. We had a head of social services in Nottingham. He was a paedophile running Nottingham. A paedophile running social services. So whenever the social workers went to him and tried to shut him down, they carried on. It carried on. It got covered up because it was a large paedophile ring. Up to 80 social workers were involved in this, right from Merseyside down to the Midlands and probably to Westminster. And this is why we've all got to make a stand today and cut this cancer because it's spreading and it's carrying on because we're letting it, because we're not listening to people. I was just a mother, a grandmother, didn't have a clue about this. Mickey Summers come to live with me and I learned a lot from this man. This man's had to fight tooth and nail, and we will fight for Melanie Shaw as well. We want her out that prison. She's going to stand with us and we're going to fight for her as well because instead of locking her up, she needs help. Help and come and stand with us. I say to everybody today, get your letters into that prison and say, we want to know more info about Melanie and what is happening to her. We've got private prisons, private courts, everything's private and covered up. You've got to wake up. The service is going to carry on and on. Your child is not safe. There was a paedophile who raped a 5-year-old boy, carried on working in the school for 10 years. It was reported to the police. It was reported to the council, and it carried on because people like you that don't come here today and listen to us, it will carry on. Your kids aren't safe in these schools. They're not safe. Wake up. Social services. If you report to social service at help, not all of them. You might just get a good social worker who works with you, but then you might get one of these common purpose ones who comes along and takes your kids and don't give a blooming damn about it. Because if you don't wake up, it's not going to change. You can all walk past and you can all ignore it. But it might be your child next, then you might want our own. Because it's not going to change. I think I've said my piece today. Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Every little thing.
Can I have your permission to put you a bit on online? You don't need my permission. I'm in a public place. I know. You don't need my permission. I'll try and get a video of you.
Big turnout here. I think we'll be marching on the prison soon, where Melanie Shaw is being held against all natural justice.
Hello everybody. Can I first thank everybody for coming today to help us support Melanie Shaw. And I have got a timeline line of events that I am aware of, starting from last July. Now, on the... Can you all hear me? Oh, let me go for the other
You can
one.
put it over your shoulder and then you can detach the microphone. It'll be easier for you. You push the button on the side.
Right, can you... Oh, yes, I can hear me now. Anyway, in the Wednesday night of July the 10th last year, Brian Gerrish at UK Column received a frantic text message from Melanie Shaw. Now, you all heard Melanie's story, but she was getting hassle from the police and everything, and she sent a terrified text to Brian Gerrish that she was getting hassled, she was very, very frightened. Brian picked the message up within 15 minutes, rang back, no response. He put a message on Facebook for us all to contact the police in Nottingham. None of us found anything out. Thursday, the call went out on the UK Column News about missing Melanie. No comments. Nobody found anything out. Eventually, 11:20 on the Monday morning, July the 14th, Brian received a message to say Melanie was in Peterborough jail, but nothing else. He put it out on the Column News at 1 o'clock that day, and being just a mile away from the prison, I started ringing the prison. They would not admit Melanie was there, but they did say write a letter. So I did, and I received a letter back from Melanie on the Saturday. She was there. I posted out her prison number, her address, etc., etc. Now in September, Melanie suddenly stopped receiving my letters for some unknown reason, but then in October we decided to have the first vigil, which we had on October the 5th, and Brian Gerrish and many other good people came to speak. And suddenly, a couple of weeks later, Melanie got the bail. We went to the bail hearing, and she was released on the Friday morning without any medication. And by the time they got her back to Plymouth, it was too late to visit a doctor, so she did have a very unpleasant weekend. She returned to court for her hearing, and the judge appeared to fall asleep in court whilst evidence was given. This we cannot prove, but then as the judge was summing up, there was no evidence about Melanie. She burnt this shed down on a few different days in the house, and the handwriting expert could not prove that it was Melanie's handwriting that had been sprayed on the house wall. The only evidence that there actually was a black bin bag with a can of spray paint in it, and Melanie's fingerprint was on the black bin bag. Now whilst the judge was summing up, after there'd been no evidence from the fire brigade in court, no evidence from anybody else but a handwriting expert who could not guarantee it was Melanie's handwriting, the judge summed up. He told the jury that Operation Daybreak was a conspiracy theory and a figment of Melanie's delusions. Melanie was found guilty and released on bail for 6 weeks pending sentence. We was actually at the court 6 weeks later, and the judge, his people had been to see Melanie in the cells beforehand. She had to accept that she was delusional and mentally ill to get 3 years supervision. If she refused to admit this, she was going to jail for 4 years. Her own psychiatrist of over 15 years states that Melanie only suffers from post-traumatic stress syndrome, nothing else. But of course, this professional was not called. The gentleman that said that Melanie was delusional had seen her for 1 hour in Peterborough jail. So Melanie was released, and then her problems started. Oh, she'd also had her son took off her because she wouldn't stop speaking about what had happened to her. She was threatened by social services. Shut up, I'll still have your child. And they did. So now Melanie goes back home after her hearing, and she starts getting visits from, we believe, police dressed in black. Her back door was put through. We have people here that went up to a house and saw the state of it. She was dragged down to the police station for some unknown reason, and her telephone was kept as evidence. Then another time they came and arrested her and tried to get her sectioned. They took her up to the local hospital in Nottingham, but she was released within 48 hours. I spoke to Melanie. She was very, very upset, very, very confused, trusting nobody whatsoever. She even told me that I wasn't who I am, but that was just her confusion. Then she disappeared again. We found out later she's in Peterborough jail. So all the letters started going. When she was in jail the first time, over 1,000 people wrote to Melanie, sending her stamps and money as a goodwill gesture. And she wrote back to many, many of these people. Now this time in jail, we are getting no information whatsoever. And I know people are sending her money, postal orders, stamps, and they are writing and supporting her. And then after I actually put on Facebook for people to send mail recorded delivery or registered so that it had to be signed for, suddenly a letter appears at the UK column. Now I have checked the writing on it, it is Melanie's handwriting. But she's been abused once again in prison. She's not receiving clean clothes, she's not having showers, she's not having medication, she's being bullied by staff, and she's not getting sleep or anything. She's in a sorry state. She had one court appearance mid-February, and she refused to attend, she refused to leave her cell. There was another court appearance 27th of February, which Peterborough people were going to, but all of a sudden, it comes onto Facebook, she wouldn't be there, it was a video link. Well, we weren't having that, we went to the court. Melanie was there, but she was in the courtroom that has a partition between the dock, where the accused are, and the public gallery. So Melanie could not see she had any friends there. So me being me, stuck my head round the corner to wave at Melanie, got shouted at by the judge and told to sit down. Whatever the judge said he accused her of doing, she was pleading guilty. She was clearly not in a proper frame of mind. She refused the help of the solicitor that was there, and Mr. Bennett. It appears he is from Fletcher's, the solicitor she previously sacked for sending clerks to do the work of solicitors. So she was sent back to Peterborough jail, supposedly until May the 18th. For a hearing, and this judge actually was a QC, I do believe, and he said he would choose who was going to do her mental health, medical reports, etc. Then the clerk to the court spoke to the QC and said, we want her in front of Judge Kurtz, who is the gentleman that said she was delusional and Operation Daybreak does not exist. Google Operation Daybreak, it does exist. So the Melanie was taken away again, and then a couple of weeks later apparently she was in court again, but nobody knew about this, and the judge told her she had to use this firm of solicitors, Fletcher's, who she previously sacked, or else he would find her incompetent. This is how the case stands now. We're going back up to Nottingham for her hearing on May the 8th, and there's another little hearing just before then. I'm not quite sure of the date, round about the 8th. The actual trial is for May 18th. Melanie is a victim, but she's a survivor, and she's now in her 40s. She's come through most things, as many survivors have, and she's made the mistake of trusting, sadly, the wrong people, and they've made her promises to start a charity that she can be the leader of, promises for this, that and the other. She trusted them. She trusted the authorities. Now we have to fight for Melanie and many other whistleblowers, many other survivors. We got Holly Gregg up in Scotland. She needs supporting. People who support Holly Gregg get charged with falsification charges. We've got Ben Fellows, was a child actor, worked through the BBC. He made reports against certain MPs and he ended up in jail. He left the country for a little while, came back into the country in December to spend Christmas with his family and got arrested at the airport. Now he's 8. Robert Green, who supports Holly, has been gagged. He spent 2-3 months sentences in jail on remand. We still don't really know the charges, but now if he mentions the name Holly Gregg or anything to do with the case on the World Wide Web, he will get life imprisonment. So we want justice. We want justice now. We want freedom for these people. So let's shout it out. What do we want?
Justice!
We want justice! When do we want it?
Now!
Justice!
Now!
Justice!
Now.
Thank you, everybody. I think we have some more speakers for you now. And thank you. I'm sorry I'm not a very good speaker. We've now got Nigel coming, I believe, from White Flowers. Thank you.
Well done, Wendy.
Oh, you're here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for coming here today. My name's Nigel Lamar and I'm here today to talk about whistleblowers. I'm a representative of the White Flowers campaign, who campaigns for the inquiry into child sexual abuse throughout the country and are instrumental in setting up the National Child Sexual Abuse Inquiry. First of all, I'd like to speak about the importance of whistleblowers. Whistleblowers form the backbone of any investigation into an organisation and its practices. Whistleblowers are people who are the very witnesses to some of the most abhorrent and cruel abuse suffered by people who are in vulnerable situations throughout our country. They allow investigators to gather surrounding evidence which enables them to establish timelines. They give every extra credence to survivors as they so often back up proved chains of events. Now at the moment, the Official Secrets Act is currently being used to stop the disclosure of some of these abuses, and this must be challenged.
Absolutely.
There are documents being held by our government with serious information regarding these abuses, and that cannot be right. We need action. No stone left unturned is what the Prime Minister promised, and he knows those files exist. It takes a very simple search on the government's own website to find them. So I say to him now, lift the stones up! Free the documents now! In the 29 years that I have been campaigning for victims of sexual abuse, change has been laboriously slow. Review after lying review said nothing was wrong. Without whistleblowers, we would still be ignorant of the abuse that's been surrounding us for decades. And they paid the price. The price for daring to speak out. And they're still paying the price for daring to speak out. We can't allow this to continue. We must demand that the next government, at the earliest opportunity, passes an amendment to the Official Secrets Act, giving specific protection to whistleblowers for the upcoming Goddard inquiry. This will allow the security services to give us the information we need to deal with the historic abuse cases that still have to be dealt with in this country. Only then can we get the results from the inquiry that we need in order to put in secure safeguards and future protocols for dealing with victims of sexual abuse. But that only deals with the historic side of the abuse. What about those suffering now? We need to support them too. We need the Melanie Shaws of this world so that we can work towards a better system for safeguarding. And we can safeguard those who really need protecting. Without them, as survivors, we're not credible witnesses. So if you care about what happens next, well, what can I do about it? Well, here's what you can do. You can get your parliamentary candidate to sign a pledge that they will back an amendment to the Official Secrets Act. There's a standard form available from our website. Just ask us. Support whistleblowers who are treated with contempt by the system and imprisoned like Melanie Shaw. Because when the politicians come knocking on your door, you can film yourself talking to them about it. Make sure that they're aware this is something that will not pass by. This is something that they will be held to account for. Ask them about Melanie Shaw. If they say they don't know, tell them they should go away and look and come back before asking for your vote. Go and look first. Small things make a big difference. If we each make a small move to make them take notice, they won't be able to hide it anymore. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Right, our new viewers, you join us at the Melanie Shaw Vigil. Having the speakers at the moment, and then we'll be marching on the prison.
Yeah, go for it. When does Billy catch them? Small one or a big one? Take the big one. A lot more noise. Right. When the weight come up.
You can take it off and use the hand trigger on the rather than holding it up.
Where can we get this stream afterwards?
Bambuser.com, channel M, Host 42.
Thank you.
Slightly held off there. Defeated as usual by the technology. That's my weak spot, technology. Okay, I'm Belinda. Probably some of you know me. I'm up from London today with a little group of fellow Londoners. So it's a sort of north-south thing, but the whole of the UK is joining up on this issue, I can safely say. I've been campaigning on this issue for about the last 6 years. And during that time, a lot has happened. We've gone from one localised campaign up in Scotland with a few tiny mini-campaigns around that were not joined up, to a big anti-child abuse movement, I can safely say, throughout the whole country by now. We are still quite disparate groups, located obviously by geography, separated by geography, but very much all joining up and saying, whenever I go to any group, everybody says the same thing, and the public around them are saying the same thing, that we do not like child abuse in any shape or form. We like it the least of all the bad issues in the society. And I think it's time that it should be the key issue in any general election.
Absolutely.
And this is my message in April 2015. We've still got 4 weeks to go. What if this suddenly bubbled up in a very nasty way for all those candidates? We can do it. We can still do it. There's everything still to play for at this stage. And don't anybody out there be deceived by the fact that there's about 50 people here today. I've just gone round and I've counted you all. Yes, 50, that's pretty good. On a Sunday, Easter Sunday, when most people are at home with their families, enjoying the holiday, to have 50 people in the town centre of any town is quite an achievement. And for every 50 people that's here, there's 100 or 200 people behind them, supporting them just in this very locality, in the Nottingham, Peterborough and the central Midlands area. And the issue today is one lady in prison, Melanie Shaw, name very familiar to everybody here and beginning to be throughout the country, because Melanie is a symbol of exactly what the society needs and has not got enough of, and that's why her name is so prominent. We need more Melanies, we need more whistleblowers, we need more witnesses, we need more people with courage to speak out. A person like me doesn't have to have courage because I wasn't abused. Some people say I don't qualify to be speaking at all about child abuse, but I can tell you that I have suffered from what I've heard of what other people have told me about their abuse. And it's got really to the heart. It's like being stabbed with a dagger every time somebody tells me their own story. And I cry the night after I hear such stories, and I can't sleep. And I'm sure most people feel the same. Normal people all over this country, I'd like to feel the same. So why can't we reach them? And that's something that I've been pondering about quite a lot. Why don't we reach the mass of the public? Because everybody feels like me. It distresses them in a way which they cannot compare with any other distress about the suffering of their people, that small children should be abused, sadistically tortured by cruel people, laughed at sometimes as well, while they're suffering and crying. They're laughed at. You know, the people who are doing these things are sadists. They're not the same as normal people. They're inhuman. They're lacking some basic element of humanity. However they got to be like that, we don't know, and that's another issue. But the fact that they laugh at their victims sometimes, that's the worst of it. And I could tell some really horrific stories. My head is full of horrific stories. And my family say, how on earth can you be doing this? We just don't understand how you can be doing it. But we have to do it. There is no going back. Once you've heard these stories, once you've taken the people who have suffered these horrors into your heart, you can't go back. In my case, I only can go forwards with it. I have to go forwards. And we have to grow this movement and grow it bigger and bigger and bigger until we take over this country. And I would like even to think that we could do it in 4 weeks flat, but let's be realistic. Some people have said to me in my immediate orbit, let's try and cancel the general election, because really this issue is so bad, it deserves for this whole country to close down while we deal with it. I mean, think of that. You know, this is the next generation. This is 1 in 10 possible children. Some people say 1 in 6 people being abused now. What kind of society will we have in 20, 30 years' time when all those people who've been abused grow up, and so many of them, that the social services, such as they are, or the welfare services, or the therapeutic services, the medical services, will not be able to deal with the sheer numbers of people who've got mental problems, possibly. And that's the worst of it. Many survivors have bravely fought their way through to rehabilitation and recovery. And hats off to them, but there are many people in the mental hospitals of the country, and I know because I've got a mentally ill daughter, and I've seen many people in my daughter's mental hospital who are suffering exactly from this syndrome. They were abused as children, and that's why they're in those institutions. So what if we, in 20, 30 years' time, have 5 times the number of people in the mental hospitals, or have been cared for, so to speak, in the community, and making life very difficult for all around them because they can't settle down, they can't be happy, they can't be normal. This has all come from one issue. It's from child abuse. It starts with the abuse of children. And we're gradually going, as this lady, Wendy, I think it was, said, this is a cancer. Cancers, unfortunately, have a habit of replicating and growing. Unless they're stopped, they just go on replicating and growing, don't they? Till they take over the whole body. Do we want that to happen? And I'm speaking now to everybody out there as well. You know, the choice is ours. This is a time of choice this year in 2015. We've got everything to play for. We can put back into that place down in London with its Gothic spires and its lovely architecture. We can put people who are real human beings, or we can put back the same kind of people who've allowed this cancer to grow unchecked all these years and decades. And that's why we're in the state that we're in. So we've got a choice. Do we put back the people who were there before? Or do we say, actually, I don't think I want any of these Cleggs and Camerons and Goves and Osborns and people back in there. I really don't want those types. I think I'm going to vote Green, or I'm going to vote, I don't know, socialist and something, lots of mini parties. Not necessarily UKIP either. I've got a flag here, and I was at a socialist workers' kind of convocation the other evening, and they said more or less to me, go away with that flag, you reek of UKIP. Okay, sorry, it wasn't meant to reek of UKIP or anything else, but I'm a patriot. I am a patriot because I want my country to run properly. I want all the legal wheels to turn in the proper smooth way they should, but not in the wrong way, where the wrong people get done to and put away, and the perpetrators of the crimes get off scot-free, and that's all being sort of standardised in the top court of the land, where my friends and I from London stand many hours of many days of many weeks all around the year. We spend a lot of time standing outside the royal courts of what we call injustice, because the system's skewed from the top. And so we have to do something about those legal processes. But I would like to see a country where legal processes work as they should, where the law works as it should, and where sneaky new laws are not weaseled into Parliament like this horrible thing of the whistleblower, no, not whistleblower, what is it? Official Secrets Act, my God, Official Secrets Act, where people who could say something about what's really gone wrong in the past are being gagged. It's a sort of official gagging law for everybody. Well, that's no good. We've got to undo that one as soon as we get anybody back into Parliament. And that should be one of the first things to undo. Let's start undoing a lot of things that have got us to this point, at this point in history. Let's start rolling it all back in the right direction, undoing the sneaky weaselly laws, the SOCPAs and the official secrets legislation, and all the unfair means whereby those in power at the moment, or so they think, restrict us from being the citizens that we know we are. We are the true citizens of this country. You and I, all the people standing here, we are the citizens because we are looking out for the most vulnerable in our society, the next generation coming up. What could be more a citizen's duty than to protect the younger generation? And so that's the choice in 2015. Do we protect the citizens of tomorrow? Or do the people of today continue to line their pockets at the expense of those future citizens? And that's what's happening in the so-called child protection industry. It's people at the top lining their pockets at the expense of the children, and at the expense of all the things that happen to children when they grow up, that they become problems in the society. And each one of those problems is another mini industry, isn't it? The drug industry, and the prison industry, and the hospitals and everything. It's all corporations these days. Everybody's lining their pockets, as well as the social services, the medical experts, the psychological experts you see in the courts, and all of those people are all lining their pockets out of the suffering and misery of children and families at the bottom of the social heap. And not just at the bottom of the social heap, but also they are isolated and marginalised because many are foreign visitors to the country. So I'm not a UKIP person. I'm not against the foreign people and the visitors to the country and the immigrants and the refugees. I'm very much for all those people. To me, they're all people. They've come to Britain, and they've come to Britain because they thought this country was a place where they would find the values that they're lacking in their own countries in many cases. Justice, decency, fair rule of law, kindness, all those common values that we had in Britain, which are being eroded. That's the real cancer. It's the erosion of our value system. So anyway, that's enough of me spouting. I'm very, very honoured to be here in Peterborough today with so many brave campaigners. I have to say the example set by the campaigners in this locality in Nottingham and Peterborough, going in and arresting your paedophile, suspected and probably actually paedophile councillors, and stopping the council meetings, that's absolutely what has to happen. And I hope everybody around the country will take your example. There's a lot of shining examples coming from this immediate locality. And so I say support Melanie Shaw, who should be a beacon for us all. Support the brave Nottingham campaigners supporting Melanie Shaw and trying to expose what's going on not just in Melanie's home but in all the other care homes in this immediate locality. And we know it's every single care home in the country has possibly got some incidents, historic or present, of children being abused, because that's the point of the care system. We've got to stop it. Children shouldn't be in care. They should be looked after in their communities and their families. Let's do away with the care system. Let's free all the people in the prisons who are standing up for truth and justice and for child protection like Melanie. And let's have a quiet and gentle revolution and put people in Parliament who feel the pulse of the people and feel where we've got to as people at this time on this issue. Let's put the child protectors in Parliament. Thank you.
Well said.
Right, everyone. Before we go down to Baker Park for the vigil proper, Reese is going to play us the sheep song to send us on our way. So, over to Reese. You get some good vibes going.
This is called Sheeple. Sheep so asleep, caught up in it all. Sheep even writing on my Facebook wall. Feel the need, you bullshit on me. They don't know the world to show, but they're still under the spell. In the mainstream madness you can always tell. They got their tongue still planted in the rectum of the BBC.
Yes.
Left wing, right wing, they're still making you sing to the same song, cause it's the same thing. Don't you think it's funny? We're chasing all the money instead of living with you're a sheep. And sheep go bar, it's that easy joining. Bar. 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 Sheep will go bar.
It's about Melanie Shaw.
Let's go to war. Don't know what for. It's to the bankers' benefit, but you'll still blame the poor. Divide and conquer, still under Roman rule. You'll be told is your job as boss. Have you been to see the judge? But still be asked. Do you vote and wonder why your kids learn jack shit in school? Well, I'll tell you, Cameron, Pirog, Miliband, you won't understand. They're pulled on the same strings by the same hand. One big corporation, but you lack an education. Use your right and your land, you don't stand. And all the sheep will go bar, 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 bar. Sheep will go bar. Come on.
Right. I'm just going to break the stream now because we're going to start on our march to the prison, and I'll be straight back.